Well, we made it. 2020 is in the rearview mirror. 2021 is now.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is an anime podcast. So, that being the case, we're going to talk about the year in anime.
Yep.
It was a difficult year for a lot of people, for the anime industry as well.
Yep.
But there was still some good stuff that came out. We're going to talk about that. Our top 10 lists, because, top 10 is just like a standard nerd thing. And some honorable mentions, maybe talk a little bit about the worst show of the year as well. So we're going to run all that down over the next hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yep.
Thanks for listening in advance.
All right. As a whole, I think the 2020 year is not a good year for anime. Like a lot of shows get delayed. A lot of good show, like the show that we expected it, got delayed until next year. But
Like what?
like Vlad Love, like we just mentioned about that.
Right. Well, before we started recording, we mentioned Vlad Love. And the other one I can think of is Fumet. How do you say it? Fumetsu no Anata-e.
Yeah, the eat things. Yes, that one.
But
as well.
I can't think of anything else other than those two.
And even like some of the shows got delayed for some season. Like I remember like Oregairu 3 supposed to come out like a season before.
Right. Yeah, there were delays like within the year, but as far as stuff that got pushed into the next year, the only two that are coming to mind are Vlad Love and Fumetsu.
And some of the movies.
Yeah, films would be hurt. Yeah, by that sort of thing, probably more than TV shows. I mean, and TV anime is already like scheduling hell, so they just throw stuff out there.
Yep. But like Wooper said, we're here to honor the good stuff. So
yeah.
I think let's start first with our pick of the worst shows.
You just said we're here to honor the good stuff.
All right, what's your? Let's do the worst show first. So, what is your pick of the worst show of 2020 Scooper?
It's got to be Japan Sinks.
All right,
has to be Japan Sinks.
Well, it's a comedy
just
mind,
the animation totally stiff, lifeless.
Mm-hmm.
The slight promise of the first episode, and I'm not somebody who thinks that the first episode was great or anything like that. I thought it was fine.
Right.
But it did have enough promise that I was like, okay, well, we'll see where this goes. And where it went was straight down the toilet with trips to like cults and weird scuba diving missions and having a balloon and hang gliding and dropping in on the main family, like all the main characters, and being like, I'm just going to abandon whatever shit I was doing before, and I'm going to hang out with you guys now because you need a bleach blonde plot device. I don't know. I thought it was just crazy.
Yep. I agree with you on that. I do think that the first episode was great, but at time it just doesn't know what to do with itself. Like you remember like the finale it's all about like nationalist. It's about like being Japanese, and I don't really get all that from that episode before that.
I kind of liked the finale.
All right.
Because it was about Japan rebuilding itself. And there was the whole, a lot of people were critical of it because they were like, oh, this is, it was just to prop up the Olympics all along. But I didn't see it that way. I mean, Japan literally sunk underwater, and they had to rebuild. So,
Yep.
I mean, some nationalism is going to creep in when you're trying to like literally raise a country from scratch.
Yep. All right, let's go with my pick of the worst show. And that show is Kamisama ni Natta Hi.
That would be my number 2.
Yeah, that's the show that just frustrates me the most. And by that, I think I do acknowledge that there's some skill writing in this play. As Jun Maeda goes all out with the comedy, that's something that he hasn't really done much before. But how it fall back is it failed to bring a satisfying conclusion. Like the ending is the worst. It just
Did you? We didn't talk about the last episode.
the last
Like on the
episode
previous.
was was shit.
Yeah, it was really bad.
It oh my
I
god.
thought she was gonna die while watching the movie.
Yeah, like and the idea of that, like he just he's the one who saved her and he decided to raise her until she died. Like God. It it's just terrible.
Yeah, and I wasn't totally sure whether their connection was supposed to be like romantic or platonic by the end, because obviously she's
True.
not really capable of having a romantic relationship
Yep.
in her current state, even though the show is like weirdly
Hey.
obsessed with her mental issues,
Yep. Yep.
like bordering on inappropriate levels of focus.
Yeah, and just like like I don't even consider the fact that how he get the girl so easily. Like the girl just hurt her and then everyone just accept him to take care of her uh by the rest of her life. But like the way that he and the cast basically just put her to do stuff to finish
You mean
the
like to
movie
finish the
production.
movie?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. And I don't exactly sure that it's for her behalf, it's for her benefit.
Yeah, I agree. It was way too self-indulgent. They just wrote that scene in so that they could, like in the script for that episode, they just wrote that scene in so that they could eventually in the movie,
Mhm.
which was like the conclusion, I guess.
Oh,
They could have a scene of her like stumbling towards her doom, and then Yota saves her. And I mean, the scene doesn't even make sense because when they're filming, she's like walking towards him, but
Yeah.
then, in post, I guess they edit it somehow so that first of all, there's like a throne room or some kind of weird chamber with a red carpet that she's walking
Yep.
down. That doesn't make any sense. There was no. How's that even possible? There was no green screen. And Yota is not there at the end of the hallway that she's walking towards. Instead, whatever.
Yep.
Not gonna waste my breath.
Yep. The less we say about the ending, the better. So let's go with the honorable mentions.
All right, done with the worst show. I mean, what? Just out of curiosity, what would be your number 2 pick? Because mine were Japan Sinks and Kamisama ni Natta Hi back to back. So what was your number 2? Your second
The
worst
one
show?
the one that we were also blogging podcasting like at the beginning of the year, my year record.
Oh, Magia Record's my number 3, dude.
Well, we do have the same taste,
I guess. Well, in terms of worst shows, yeah.
Yep. Well, I basically sell Japan Sing for my most disappointing shows, and
Right.
I still think that it had some merits. It isn't like at the lowest the bottom rank for me.
Oh yeah. I mean, I do think there is some there's some good in that show.
Yep.
I can't remember what episode it was, either 7 or 8, where they're in the tent that's floating on the water. The
Daniel.
inflatable thing. Daniel-san. What a man.
Yep. All right, let's go with the honorable mentions.
Sure. So I know you have a couple. I have a couple as well.
Right.
I guess I actually kind of have 3, but one of them is just like a 1-sentence acknowledgement
Right.
because of the way our awards are structured, like
Yep.
for eligibility's sake.
Oh, that would be.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say that
Hamefura.
one. Yeah, it is.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
I-
because we're only considering anime that began in this year, as opposed to ended or aired at all.
Mhm,
So only anime that started in 2020 are eligible, and so Chihayafuru, which would be on my top 10 for sure,
Yeah. Mhm.
is not there. So that's an honorable mention, real quick, out of the way.
Right.
So what's your first one?
Oh, right. So my first one is a split core. So the first pack come out in 2019 as well, but I included because the second core is coming out last year, and I got the chance to watch the whole thing last year. Uh, would you want to make a guess on that one?
A split core that started in 2019. My Hero Academia Season 4.
Nah, no.
Well, I mean, I already said Chihayafuru. That's the other one I can think of.
Yeah. Well, it's a split core. So it does mean that.
Oh, not ReZero.
Yeah, there's a gap.
Yeah, I don't know. I give up.
All right. So the one on my first honorable mention is Honzuki no Gekukujo, or Ascendance of the Bookworm. That's right.
Okay.
So I think it's the the stories where the main character literally go from nothing to gaining respect from the people around her, and I feel like only respect from the people around her feel earned to me. The production is a bit lacking, but otherwise, I think the story is strong enough to carry the other things. The first season is better than the second, where Mine. Have you watched the whole shows though?
I haven't even seen one episode.
All right. So let's just say that I think the first season is tighter than the second, and the third core I think is on the way as well. So I'll be waiting for that.
All right. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
I'm struggling to think about like what the conflict would be in that series because she just wants to be a librarian, right? I
Yeah,
know
so-
there's something about like the church. The church wants to ban books, and she has to go up against them.
Yeah. Well, so the basic idea is because the world where she live right now doesn't have books, and she want to make book. So she go all shop the way in order to do that. So the first season dealing with her dealing with the merchant. So she want to sell, like she want to make a book and she want to sell it. And the second season is when she go to the church, because the church have books.
They have books.
They have book. Oh yeah, yeah.
So
So they have book, but it's just for the nobles.
Right.
That's a better way to put it.
Gotcha. So yeah, that's how they end up being the antagonists.
Yep. Not really, but well.
Oh, all right.
All right. So what is your next honorable mention?
Okay, so honorable mention number 2, I guess, if
Yep.
Chihayafuru counts, would be Kakushigoto.
Right.
The thing that stopped me from, I mean, I really like the visual style, and the ED obviously is great.
Yep.
It has a few standout episodes, most of which for me are the ones that highlight the bond between, what's the girl's name? Hina?
Hime.
Hime, that's right, Hime. Yeah, I have PTSD from Kamisama ni Natta Hi.
Yep.
That's why I said Hina. Yeah, Hime. I can't remember her actual name, but my favorite episodes are the ones that really highlight the bond between father and daughter. And a lot of the wordplay and stuff, and especially the conclusion, which like dove head first into the flash forward, where the main character goes missing and Hime grows up without him, and then they reunite and stuff. A lot of that didn't work for me. The humor was a little bit hit and miss, but I do feel as though, you know, the show had a kind of a strong backbone in the relationship between its two central characters, and when it decided to stand up straight and actually use that backbone, it was quite good. When it didn't, it wasn't.
Yep. How do you like the comedy of the shows? The gag.
Just a lot of reliance on silly, frivolous gags and wordplay that I didn't understand.
Yeah.
I mean, it was funny. I was amused by it, but not with the rate that I should have been. Like, it should have been a smile a minute. But I'm either the show is not good enough or I'm not Japanese enough to hit that quota.
Yep. Yeah.
But I did like it, so honorable mention.
Cool. All right, my next honorable mention is. All right, I think I already told you about like how my 3, so my ranking number 3 to 10 and 11 actually was like really interchangeable because I think they are just like they're on the same levels. And here
Right.
is the one that I'm splitting my hair to put
Right.
that here because I think it's just lacking a bit to become my top 10. But anyway, here's the show. Yesterday was Utatte.
Okay.
So what struck me the most about Yesterday was Utatte is that this is more like the 2000s kind of anime. So not only with the setting where people still communicate by home phone instead of texting, but with its slow burn approach to its romance story. So
Well,
the
you could say slow burn for the first half of the show.
yeah, yeah, that is true. So the show is at the best. It is bad when it displays the relationship between all the characters. So each of them have their unique chemistry to each other, and they have a lot of interesting side one-off characters. But wait for is the ending. It just betray everything that's come before that. And to add it up, I think I see that the main couple in this show is not that interesting to follow.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, yesterday Wotate, it was definitely on pace to be something special,
Mhm.
especially given the fact that like you said, it does feel like a series out of time,
Mhm. Yeah,
um,
true.
and it did throw a lot of that away. I think in the last, I mean, a lot of people fault just the final ending. I mean, the final episode, but I mean, I think that episode 11 was nearly as bad
Mm.
because well, I might be talking about that show later on, so I
Mm.
won't go too into depth.
All right, all right. So let's go with your last honorable mention.
Okay. It is actually not Yesterday Wo Utate, so spoilers for one of my 10 series.
Hmm.
My second honorable mention, which I guess is my 11th best show of the decade, or year rather, is the third Masaki Yuasa series that came out this year.
Oh,
Not Eizouken, not Japan Sinks, but Super Shiro,
wow.
the 46 episode, I think,
Yep.
series of shorts about the dog from Crayon Shinchan.
Hmm.
So it
Interesting.
started in 2019, and then it ran almost all the way through 2020. Um, and I really enjoyed it. It was very Tom and Jerry, very Looney Tunes.
Hmm.
The animation is there's definitely a lot of, I mean, it's Science Saru, so it's flash animated, and it doesn't always look great. For example, when Shiro runs, he doesn't move his legs back and forth. His legs are frozen in place, and he
Huh.
just kind of zooms along, the screen with the background scrolling behind him. But there is an episode dedicated to explaining like the physics of why that is in the show's universe. And that kind of mentality is exactly why I like the show. It's extremely playful,
Yep.
aware of its limitations and its status as a cartoon, and it takes full advantage of that. Like the situations that Decapu, who's the arch villain, and Shiro, who's the main character, the situations they find themselves in, like all the different settings that they go to,
Hmm.
and where they have their little confrontations, their little battles. There are so many. Like there are 46 episodes, I think,
Hmm.
46-ish, and they probably 40 of them probably take place in a different setting.
Wow. All right.
So the backgrounds are all very limited looking. They use a lot of very simple colors and shapes, and the characters look simple as well. But the show is just it's fun. It's clever. It goes to different places all the time, and it's fun.
Hmm. All right. I haven't watched like any of the Super Shiro yet, so I will check that out someday. Has it been finished yet?
Yes, it's over.
Right. It
One
interesting though
guy
that
on one guy fan subbed the entire thing by himself, all
cool,
the episodes.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, you yourselves surely have a very busy year this year. It's
Yeah,
last
I
year.
mean he must have.
Yep. And they have like a movie along the way as well. Supposedly it's
Yes.
coming this year in 2021.
Yes. Hopefully. I mean, delays obviously could be a thing
Hmm.
because of COVID and
Yeah.
his own retirement, and everything else. But
Mhm.
I mean, Ongaku was my most anticipated anime of 2020, and Inuo is my most anticipated anime of 2021.
Okay.
So I expect, I'm pinning a lot of my hopes on that film being good, so that, like, you know,
Hmm.
I can think of Yuasa as the ping pong mind game Tatami Galaxy guy again,
Yep.
instead of the Japan Sinks Eizouken Super Shiro guy.
All right. Eizouken is not that bad. It's not bad at all.
It's not bad at all, but well, we're going to talk about Eizouken in a bit, but I mean, suffice it to say, I don't think it lives up to the three works that I mentioned before it.
All right. Cool. All right. So now let's tackle our top 10 of 2020. Shall we?
Okay, sure.
All right.
You want to start?
All right. I'm gonna start.
Okay.
My number 10 is Hamefura. It's
Okay.
it's my feel good show of the in recent years. And why I think the latter half it faltered a bit due to its repetitive structure. Catalina just carried all. She brightened the screen. She is easily one of my favorite characters this year. And for me, the first three episodes when they were still kids are my favorite. I can certainly rewatch it countless time. Um, Other than that, the background are surprisingly solid. And with
Hmm.
Bookworm, I like this show and Bookworm. I like the direction of the isekai taking right now.
Yeah. It's less about nerdy,
Fantasy
uh,
stuff, yeah.
nerdy,
Fight,
teenage boys who get transported into another dimension so that they can look at a bunch of like sexy elf girls and stuff.
hmm.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about the fact that there is some overlap between Bookworm and Hamefura.
Yeah. Well, I think except it is a guy and it's focused on the main female characters. I don't think there's a lot of overlap between the two.
Well, yeah, I mean you're right. Hamefura is kind of like half parody and half, um,
Romance.
well, it's half parody and half like unironic otome
Yep.
adaptation. So it's making fun of it a little bit, but at the same time, it pretty much is an otome
Yep.
series, and that's actually like you said that the second half kind of falls into a rut, like in terms of repetition,
Yep.
it repeats itself.
Yep.
I mean, I'm surprised that you would say that it only does that for the second half because I only saw the first 7 episodes, but there was plenty of repetition to be found in there. Like every character just wishes that Katarina would grow a penis so that they could suck it. It's just,
That's
there's
hey,
so much
hey.
fellating of her character. Um, and it's every character. It's all the cute guys. It's all of her friends. It's everyone. It's like the show itself is, um,
A
her
celebration
biggest
for
fan.
for Catalina. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if she were a character worth celebrating, I think that'd be fine. But I don't know that she is. I mean, she's Genki. She's kind of cute, but
Yep.
I didn't really get it. I mean, we did a whole podcast episode about it where we
Yep.
like just talked about Hamefura, and I just
Yep.
relentlessly crapped on it. So I was
All right.
wondering if you were going to include that in the top 10, but I decided, nah, there's no way.
Yeah. I love it well enough to be there.
Good.
Yes.
That's good. It's good to have series like that, like Super Shiro and Hamefura, that you can just you turn on an episode and you can be confident even before you see the first frame that you're going to have a good time.
Yeah. That
It's
that's
important to
true.
have entertainment like that, especially this year. All right, should I do
All
my
right.
number 10?
Yeah. Please.
Okay, my number 10 is actually another series kind of in the same vein as Hamefura, like kind of a chill out, hangout, have a good time show. It is Maou-jou de Oyasumi.
Right.
This is, I think, the most consistent show of the year for me,
Yep.
owing to kind of that feeling that I was talking about before. You turn on an episode, you can be pretty confident you're going to like it. Now, Maou-jou de Oyasumi is even more overtly repetitive than Hamefura because it has quests. Like every episode has a series of several quests that the princess undertakes in order to get an item that will help her sleep even better in captivity at the demon castle. But I do feel as though every single quest is made fresh by the fact that she's always going to some new part of the castle, like the ice world or the magma chamber underneath, or she's like leaving the castle and going to the enchanted forest. In the finale, they actually go back to her hometown and she encounters her mother.
Yep.
And I really liked that episode. I loved that her mother was supportive of her. Like when her mom realizes that it's her in disguise at the end. And she's being quote unquote abducted, and she's like, go on and live your life. She supports her daughter, and I found that to be very heartwarming, even though they're both like airheads. So I thought this series was good-hearted, and I thought that it even though it was very formulaic, it also had a lot of variety in its setting and its monster designs. I think it was just good wholesome fun.
All right. One thing that I want to add on that show is I think this show have the very good comedy job. The comedy timing is really good, and it plays with the structure. So that's why they, like you said, it sounds repetitive, but it actually they make a lot of tweak around the quest, so that it make it fresh every time you watch it.
Yeah.
So it's like Phineas and Ferb. If you have watched it, like I think it around the same concept. It play around the structure.
I have not seen Phineas and Ferb, but I know that like one of them is an inventor, so I assume that in every episode they invent a new gadget to do something new.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'll start watching Phineas and Ferb, dude. I should probably watch more, like Western animation or just world animation.
Yep.
I can't imagine that anime will like entertain me for that much longer.
Just
by itself without looking elsewhere.
Yeah, try that. I think you have a good time with it.
If I'm gonna watch a Western series, like a Western animated series, the next one I'll watch is gonna be Primal.
Yeah.
By the guy who did Samurai Jack. And then I also want to watch Over the Garden Wall. I've heard a lot about that. I don't know anything about it, but it's supposed to be good. So I'll get around to those eventually.
Yep. Over the Garden Wall is just like 2 hour long. It's not long. It's like a movies with 10 short episodes. Okay. And it's good.
It sounds good to me.
All right. My
Your
number
turn.
9 is Deca-Dence.
Okay.
I think it's have a fresh concept that switch back and forth between different worlds and act style. And for me, like the whole thing is still click together. I consider like episode 2 is one of the best of Deca-Dence, and for me is one of the best of the year as well. I know you will be different to me on this, but I really dig the relationship between the two main characters, Natsume and Kaburagi, and they had some dynamic choreographies, and like the story take you to the places that you don't normally expect. So I enjoy the whole ride of Deca-Dence.
Yeah. Taking you to places that you didn't expect. I like that. I like that phrase because it's true. You talk about Maou-jou de Oyasumi going to a lot of different places. Deca-Dence does the exact same thing.
Yep.
Like I'm thinking that first of all, there's 2 like different worlds that you kind of travel back and forth between as a viewer, and then there's weird episodes like the one with the chamber with all the doors, like from Monsters Inc., where they have to. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Where they like invade the facility where all the doors
I'm
are.
trying to remember that now. Alright, yeah. Is that like towards the end?
Sort of. I think it's like 2/3 of the way through.
Alright.
I can't remember why they went into that place with the doors,
Yeah,
but
don't
they
remember
did.
that either. Yeah.
Damn. I would
And
try. I
they
would like sit for a second and try to remember, but that would just be dead air. It would just be silence. I don't think I'm gonna get it.
yeah,
And then
well
there was kind of an underground cavern with like green crystals and
that
stuff. Where
yep.
I remember that was like episode 4, where Natsume has her first real encounter
Mhm.
with the Gattles, where she's actually like actively fighting and stuff. There
Mhm.
was that, and then there's the camp, like the prison where they have to shovel poop, and
Yep.
there is always like a new place
Yep.
to go and visit when you watch Deca-Dence. So I definitely appreciate that about the
Mhm.
series. I mean, the less said about the characters, the better, in my opinion.
Oh, right.
I think Kabaragi's pretty interesting because it does end up becoming his story by the end.
Mhm.
I don't, Natsume, I can take or leave, and that's a shame because
Yep.
it shouldn't have been that way. I don't think. Not
Mhm.
obviously not everyone will agree that she's expendable to the story, but I certainly felt that way, and I didn't want to feel that way.
Yep. Alright, so what is your number 9?
Okay, it is, as I already mentioned, Yesterday wo Utatte.
Yep.
So you already talked about it a little, so I won't go into too much detail, except to say that in
Mhm.
addition to episode 12 being bad, because Rikuo reveals himself to be like a shallow tool, who after he breaks up with one woman, he just takes a bus to go see the other one and,
Young
get
one.
together with her. What's that?
Young one as well.
Oh, yeah.
Like, see,
Well, I mean, she was 18 by that point, right?
right? Alright. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's fine. And I mean, he was only like 20. He was in his early 20s, I think. I hope.
Yeah, well.
So yeah, there was episode 12. That was obviously really bad. But episode 11 made the decision to omit the first 3 months of Rikuo and Shinako's relationship.
Yep.
There's just a time skip.
Yep.
And the first time we see them actually together as a couple is 3 months into the relationship, and they're at a supermarket, and they're talking about like what they're going to have for dinner and whether one of them is going to be home that night. It's very domestic and cozy, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, when did this really happen? Because before that time, the last time we saw them together was where he finally made enough progress with her to get into her apartment, and he like gives her a little hug.
Yep.
And then he's like, I'll go home for tonight, because he's trying to set her at ease. And then we see them again 3 months later, and they're together, and man, fuck that. That was bad. I feel like the series did start to slip even before episode 11, like a little bit, but I do consider the first half of Yesterday wo Utatte to be among the best first halves of anime that we got this year.
Right.
6 different episodes focusing on 6 different characters, including a couple side characters who I thought were really well drawn.
Yep.
Both,
Okay.
I mean, not well drawn as in, pencil and paper,
Yep.
but well drawn as in like their personalities just jumped off the screen. I wish that there were entire series about the two of them going off and doing their own adventures, like Yuzuhara Chika, especially the girl from episode 6, the redhead.
That would have been more. That would have been more interesting than follow these two characters.
Yeah, I mean, I did like Shinako. I mean, I think Shinako was, in the end, she was probably the show's strongest character. Like the grief that she was dealing with from her first love passing away, and then
Yeah. Well, I think the reason I said that is because their relationship is really passive. So that you need like another push in order for that relationship to progress, and it's taking forever for that push.
yeah, that was bothersome in some places. Like, I definitely remember when the two of us were talking about it, like week to week.
Yep.
I was like, Rikuo, just be a tiny bit more assertive,
Mm-hmm.
Like you get up to her apartment door, and she's, just.
She let
I'm
you
not.
in.
I'm not saying that you shove your foot in the door and refuse to let her close the door, and you you make your way in. But just say something to her instead of walking in awkward silence up to the door, and then her being like, "I don't think I'm ready," and then you say, "Okay," like, man.
All right.
Yeah, but I mean there were a lot of individual episodes in the show that I really liked. So even though the ending was a shit show, I still wanted to, give it some credit.
Yep. All right. Are you done?
Are you done? Yes.
All right. So let's move on to my number 8, and this is the first sequels out of my top 10, and there's 4 sequels on my top 10, just so you know.
Okay.
This one that have been on my list on 2019 as well, and continue to be strong in the second season. And I think you might have guessed it. It's Kaguya-sama S2. Yes. I consider this season more focused on romance instead of comedy from the first season. They do introduce some new characters, which which is like one of my favorite addition to the cast as well. It's also one of the most consistent show. It's don't have like really bad episodes, or like the quality doesn't try out like in some episode like what Haikyuu did. But I still consider the bit with Ishigami past doesn't really belong to the show.
Yeah.
Other than that, I enjoy the character. So every time they have like they bickering with each other, they have a good time with each other. It's my good time as well. So enjoy the show.
Nice. Yeah, the for sure. Ino's introduction, good stuff. And it gives you kind of like a 5 point, like a pentagon. What's the satanic symbol where you draw the star and then the circle around it? Pentagram. Yeah,
Yep.
It's like a pentagram of comedy instead of ritualistic sacrifice. I don't know what I'm saying. Yes, the introduction of Ino, the 5th character, does make things a little bit more interesting than just having the square, like the 2 characters who are really into each other, and then the 2 third and 4th wheels. She does bring something important, I think, to the show, and so they do when they bicker. It is, or when also when they're hanging out and having a good time together. Either way, that 5th person really does bring the show to a different level.
Yep.
I still prefer the first season.
Yep.
But
Me too.
I will get into that a bit later.
All right. So what is your number 8 pick?
My number 8 pick is Gal and Dino.
All right. Yeah.
Only half of this show is anime, so I actually bumped it down a little bit compared to where it would be otherwise, because this is one of my favorite anime of the year.
Right.
However, only half of it is animated.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to, bump it down a few spots. I really underestimated this show at first.
Yep.
Because the live action scenes were very strange in the first few episodes. The Kaide, the main girl, was played by a middle-aged man, which is fitting because this show is from the same production company that made Pop Team Epic.
Yep.
And in Pop Team Epic, they had female voice actors during the first half of the episode and male voice actors during the second part. But for whatever reason, I wasn't really digging. It was too impenetrable. Like, it was too dense. There were references to like different dimensions and stuff I didn't understand in the live action segments at first.
Mm-hmm.
But then once they cast, what's her name? Nana Yashiro, I think is her name. Once they cast her as Kaide, and then there was a link between the animated segments where she and Dino were, they were living together, they were roommates, and they were getting to know each other a bit more, and like getting more comfortable and becoming better friends. They could do that in the animated segments and the live action segments.
Yep.
And then there started to be a link between them, and the show would, those two parts of the show, those two halves would feed into each other.
Mm-hmm.
Once that started happening, I think the show hit its stride.
Yep.
And it became very enjoyable to watch, a lot of fun. There was also some experimentation here that I really liked. There were dream sequences that were illustrated like with markers, and there was some simulated chalk animation, not actually animated with chalk, but done on a computer in order to look like it against, like a dark slate background. That was really cool. The claymation bits were not always good, but sometimes they were a lot of fun, especially when they echoed like what came before or after, when they related to something else the show was doing that week. So I enjoyed it. It was strange, and it was, debatably not an anime, at least half of it, but I did like it a lot.
Yep. Yeah, I did think about that show when I doing the top 10, but I decided to, on your predicted list, but I decided to put that aside. My bad.
Oh yeah. You didn't think I would go there, huh?
Yeah, well.
I did it.
Yeah.
I went there.
Well, consider that you like popped in a pick. I should have, put that on the list.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I remember calling it in my preview of the first episode, my impression. I said it's no pop team epic.
Yep.
But it did kind of end up, moving a little bit in that direction as it went on. Only with a lot more sweetness to it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that actually makes it completely different, actually, I guess. But it did get a little weird and experimental. So we've both done our picks 10 through 8. You want to do your number 7?
Yep. All right. My number 7 is on another original show that just came out last season.
Okay, we know what this is.
Yep. That's Akudama Drive.
Nice.
I think if there's like a trend on the last year, that would be a show that have a crazy drive from start to finish that hold your attention and then never really let go. So we have this one, Akudama Drive. We have some along the line. This show also add benefit from the set of protagonists, from the characters that feel like they are the main protagonists of their own story. And I love the way that the show deal with them properly. They have the ending to like, for me, satisfying ending to all the characters. We have like the really ambiguous settings and the whole like political things going on.
You mean ambitious?
Ambitious and ambiguous as well.
I guess it is a little bit ambiguous because of you don't know what Kanto is up to exactly
that's
for
right.
a lot of the show.
So that's the thing that I think would be benefit on the time you rewatch it, so you can pick up a little bit of pieces. And as for the negative, I think remember like the 50-cent coin. I think they laying a bit too thick on that one on the last few episodes.
Yeah, I do remember you making a comment about that when we were talking about Akudama Drive recently.
Yeah.
I mean, I really liked the significance of the 500 yen piece because of how they worked it back into episode 11 with the crazy like overlapping dream sequences where Hacker was trying to like merge the consciousness of Swindler and Courier so that they could escape Kanto's grasp on their minds. I think that was really interesting.
I do like that bit, but like the bit after that's where they acknowledge the significance of that 500 yen too many times, and even at the end it passed down to the kids as well, as they like holding the 50 yen coin and like walking into the new world.
Oh, I forgot about that. I guess were they holding? Was it like did the camera hold on it or focus on it while they were?
No. So the courier, they he gave the 500 yen to them, and they
Right.
hold on to it. So it just and it continued to be like that. I remember
Okay.
they holding the 500 yen as they walking into the new place.
Okay. Huh. That never really bothered me. Um,
Yep.
hmm.
I guess you're right.
I don't know. I just never really thought about it as being that significant. Obviously, it's like the passing of the torch because he's about to die.
Yep. Hmm.
Um, but I don't know. I think it's appropriate because since Swindler was the one who picked it up and tried to return it to him, and he wouldn't take it.
Hmm.
When he did eventually take it back, it was representative of the fact that he had learned from watching Swindler that it's not just about getting the job done. It's not just about delivering the package.
Hmm.
It's about doing the right thing, and that's what he does at the end of the series. He pretty much, I mean, not single-handedly, but he is the hero of the final episode. That's not necessarily true. Like Swindler is also.
Yeah.
The fact that she sets up her death being on video obviously makes her like the Christ figure of the series.
Mm.
But Courier is the one who like destroys Kansai
Single-handed.
as it once was. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he takes down that tower. He blows up those massive droids that are shooting like laser beams that are practically.
With one hand.
I
So
don't
that literally is
Yeah.
single-handed.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking of the part before that where he's on the motorcycle and he's shooting those grappling hooks and like zooming up into the air in that snowfield outside. I mean, that was just badass.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think the significance of that 500 yen goes beyond that as well to Swindler, because of that encounter, she becomes Akudama, and it changed her life forever. So this whole significance of some decision you make that like could change rapidly to your life.
yeah. I mean, in the end, I think the show got away from focusing on that. It was more, it was more about the humanity that Swindler held,
Yep.
um, which I suppose was the coin, because when she eventually returns it to Courier, it's like he's a human being too, and you don't really feel that from him a lot
Mm-hmm.
as the series goes on, but you get it once they have their final exchange, and he carries her will forward, like
Yep.
he destroys the system that's out to oppress its citizens and take a couple of
we haven't.
innocent young kids and use them for the benefit of like a cabal of shadowy elites in Kanto.
Yep. And we haven't really talked about the finales on our last podcast, but I really like the way it develops. I think
Yeah,
everything.
I mean we'll talk about that in
yeah.
a second.
All right, cool.
We'll have a chance.
Yep. All right, so go on with your number 7, Wooper.
Okay, so that was yours. Mine is aggressive Retsuko season 3.
Mhm.
I was not a fan of the way the series began, like Retsuko being forced into idle slavery, because she signed a contract after a fender bender. I've already complained about that enough. So I didn't like the setup, but once she joined OTM Girls, it was very satisfying to see her find, meaning in work that originally she didn't respect or understand. The conversations that she would have with Monica, the bunny, who'd been doing this, who was older than she looked and had been doing this for longer than Retsuko had anticipated. Those were interesting. It gives you a new perspective on Retsuko's character because she kind of views herself as somebody who's like past her prime, I guess. She's worried about whether she's ever going to find someone that she can be happy with and whether there's any future for her in the company where she works, because she thinks of herself as being, like a little bit older and over the hump. But the significance of a character like Monica, who's older than that and is still pursuing her dreams, and dealing with setbacks like Retsuko's appearance is a major setback for her. Even so, she keeps doing it, and she may not have the best attitude about it, but she doesn't give up, and I think that's something that Retsuko learned from.
Yep.
I also think the side character, there was some tremendous work done with the side characters. Like Haida, his love triangle with Inui
Yep.
was really interesting. When Inui asked, maybe I could come over sometime and listen to you play bass,
Yep.
that's honestly one of my favorite moments of the year in anime. Because the way that she just casually asks to come over like that, every other anime that I can think of, like that's being produced now, would just not touch that with a 10-foot pole. Like a woman just nonchalantly, confidently asking, I mean, she doesn't say, "Hey, can I come over?"
Yep.
But she makes a very clear pass at him, and that's I mean, anime doesn't do that for female characters. Anime doesn't do that for male characters.
Yep.
It doesn't, anime is like, sweating bullets every time there are two characters who are mildly attracted to each other in the same room. Like most series will pee their pants when that happens. They don't know. They don't understand how to write
Yep.
dialogue between two people who are flirting or attracted to each other. So when Inui said that, I was like, yeah, yes, this is the shit I want to see.
Yep.
Obviously that didn't work out for Haida or Inui, but it was still good.
Poor Inui.
Yeah, I know. That's why you feel so bad for her, because she's like a recognizable character. It's clear that she likes this guy and wants him and wants to hang out with him and be with him. Because her language is plain,
Yeah.
She talks like a person, even though she's a dog.
She's a good dog.
She is a good dog. I hope she recurs in season 4.
Oh my god. Yep, I agree with you all of that. This is my favorite season out of the 3, and unlike you, I think it fits in the way that it connect Retsuko frustration into like singing thing in metal to idol. I think it just concept wise it really fit everything together. This season also have like a lot of romance. And I love how like they set like you said, the cycle between Haida. We see more of Haida with other characters that like engaged with Retsuko before, like with Tadano, her ex, or with Gori, the gorillas. I love all these moments. So like all the small moment work for me, the big moment work for me. I just love it so much.
Yeah, I agree that it's the best season of the 3 so far, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to season 4 very much. I mean, I think this series may have been in my top 10 3 years in a row. Not sure on season 1, but it's good. It's consistent, man. It's good.
That's right. Yep.
I may it continue for like several more years. I'm still not tired of it.
Oh, I definitely agree with you on that. And that's also aggressive Retsuko 3 is my number 6. So I just basically talk my piece.
Okay, cool. Should I go on to my number 6, or do you have any other notes on the show?
Yeah, just the last note is they push up the romance pretty much for this season, and I also like the way it goes so far. Like you said, like with Inyo and Haida, they tackle it with style, let's say, and yeah, I just love it. I just like it.
Yeah, good show.
All right, let's go.
All right, I will go on to my number 6 then.
Yep.
Which is Akudama Drive. So we flip-flopped our 6 and 7 picks. Akudama Drive, we've already talked about it a bit. We can talk about the finale, since you were headed in that direction earlier.
All right.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that it's great. I mean, it's really cathartic. Courier becomes a super. I was pretty cold on Courier's character for a lot of the show.
Mm-hmm.
He's just calling people shitheads and not exhibiting a lot of humanity. Just cares about getting the job done, and he has that ridiculous motorcycle, so you kind of feel as though his character is the motorcycle for a lot of his appearances. But then, I mean, he transforms into John Wick or something at the end, man. He's like a man possessed. He's carrying the will of Swindler into the future. And it it ends on a really great note. How did you feel about the final scene, like the montage between the two kids walking through the tunnel, and then intercutting that with a bunch of shots of the ruins after the battle with snow falling on them? How'd you feel about it?
I don't really remember those scenes, so maybe I
What?
might have skipped it. All right, I'm gonna give it a watch after the podcast.
Okay.
So
What was? I mean, for me, I loved every moment of the finale, but the final 2 minutes or so, that sequence was like a highlight for me. What was your favorite moment?
all right, I think my favorite moments had to be it have a lot of good moments. Um, I think it had to be the way that Swindler was killed, and then later on we see that she basically Swindler all the citizens. So I love that. I just love the feel of that.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I don't know if swindler was the best translation of the word that
Yeah, no,
I can't
not
remember
really.
her name, but she doesn't swindle people.
I agree.
She tricks them. She's like a trickster, or
Yeah, it's
I
a
don't know.
it's a
It may be the best translation for the word. I'm not sure, but it doesn't always feel as though she's like swindling, like stealing,
yeah.
or. But her death was, yeah, man, I got chills
Yeah.
when she was nailed to that cross with a beam saber. Oh, like, dude, the blood splatter,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and then the shot right after she was pushed up against it, like with her arms swinging in front of her body lifelessly,
Yep.
and like the blood running down the front of her shirt as it like pours down her skin underneath. That would, oof,
Yeah.
love that.
All right. I just gonna compare this quickly, but there's that plus splattering is like one of the another show that airing at the end of last year and beginning of this year. That I think is like a really significant trait of that show. It's Play of the Immortals, and this one is comparable to that.
Ah, yes. You have been mentioning recently that you were going to finish that up.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wonder if it'll
I fi-
probably won't appear on your list. I'm guessing, but maybe
yeah,
it will.
I
don't know.
finished it. No, I finished it. Let's
Yeah.
see. It's not eligible though.
Oh, true.
Yep.
Wait a minute. Then why was Hozuki eligible? Because it was a split core.
It's a split core, so the second season is basically last year. Basically in 2020. So yes.
I don't think split core should count, should they? I mean, Chihaya Furu was 2 core. They just aired next to each other.
Yeah. Well, I would say that my honoration is Bookworm season 2.
Oh, it was an honorable mention.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, Akudama Drive was really good. I mean, I think that this show was characterized by like standout episodes. So
Yep.
even though I thought like the premiere was amazing, the finale was amazing. Episode 6, the animation on episode 6 was godlike. Like that's we're talking Mob Psycho, like approaching Mob Psycho levels
Yep.
of insanity on episode 6 of Akudama Drive. The color work in that episode not necessarily the best, unfortunately, at least in my opinion. There were a lot of crazy colors in Akudama Drive, like a lot of monochromatic shots, and then a lot of episodes that were themed after particular colors. Like episode 9, for example, the homage to The Shining was all about red and gray. And there are some episodes where everything's like either purple or green, and I'm not a color theorist or anything, but Akudama Drive, like its visual look was not always to my tastes, but it did put together some truly incredible, like highlight episodes for itself.
Yep.
So some unforgettable stuff in there.
I want to raise attention to the background as well, because I remember we were talking a bit about the background of Akudama Drive and earlier in the series, and we will agree that the bit where they inside the train was not inspiring.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think like they do a pretty good job. This is one of the few shows that the background designer is like actively involved through the concept of the show. Like really at the beginning of episodes, and it shows.
Yeah, like a futuristic cyberpunk type of thing.
That's right. That as well. Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people have been praising the show for that. Honestly, I don't think that much of the backgrounds in this series. Like the cityscapes, they did their job, like especially in the premiere episode to establish everything, and then in the finale because you got to get the shots of the city again before it's all destroyed. But wasn't that big a fan of the environments in this show.
Yeah.
It was mostly the crazy balls out over the top action, the animation, and surprisingly at the end the characters in the story came together for me. Yeah, but it has been getting lots of praise for its visual direction. So it definitely tapped into a trend that a lot of people were digging on.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so let's get to my number 5. This is another sequels, and this is, I think, you might have guessed it. The first 2.
Yeah, I already know what it is.
Yep, the first 2 season are on my top 10. I don't even consider the first season that good, but it just keep improving, and the third one is just a blast. So I'm talking about Golden Kamuy 3. This season is the season where most of the time, like all throughout all the season, Sugimoto and Ashipa was apart from each other, as Sugimoto had to catch up with Ashipa. They feature like two separate plot lines with a lot of characters, and like I mentioned before, with Akudama Drive, this is the show where the characters are king. They are the protagonists of their own stories, and every time that we learn more about these characters, they just improve, and the plots go together as well. So I'm talking about like they have like 2 separate plot lines, but they all in the service of the bigger plot, and it's all come down together in the end. And for me, the most important thing, the most strength of this season is the pacing. Before Golden Kamuy would go like all over the place, they would focus too much on one characters that slow down the story. This one though, they don't really have that problems. So the pacing is impeccable. It just it's a top notch series from start to finish.
All right. I have not seen this. I've only seen the first 2 episodes of the first season. I don't really have anything to add. I'm glad, and I will note that your assessment of it as being like kind of most improved show is one that I've seen in a lot of other corners of the internet. So it would be interesting to know like what staff changes were made, perhaps, to tighten things up in terms of the story.
I would say that they find their footing in the third seasons, so they know like they just on the groove basically. And
well, that's good.
And I also tell you that the bear is back in the third season, and it's not CG.
It's not CG anymore.
No.
Yeah, I heard about that.
It's cool.
That's maybe that's might be like the best one sentence pitch that you could sell the show on.
Yeah.
The bear is back and it's not CG. I mean, hearing all these nice things about Golden Kamuy from different people does make me want to read the manga. I doubt I will ever watch the anime. I don't, my experience with it at first was bad enough. I probably won't want to watch it. But I mean, if I get through the manga and then I want to go back and like re-experience the season 3 portion of the story, maybe I'll just watch that. I don't know.
Yep. All right. So what is your number 5?
That would be Kaguya-sama season 2.
Yep. So it's it's a tad lower than 2019, right?
Yes, I don't think that this season rather, is as good as the first one. That's just my own personal opinion.
Yeah.
Obviously, people's opinion of like the material that what's his face was given gamer with the headphones and the Ishigami. Their opinion of the Ishigami material and their, how much they like Ino as a character, those two things will probably determine whether they like this season more or less than the first one.
Yep.
I mean, I like it roughly the same, but I do think that season 1 had a pretty incredible finale with I Can't Hear the Fireworks, where Kaguya, like they do that jailbreak to get her out of her house where her folks have her locked up, or just her dad, I don't know. Yeah, just her dad, right? Because mom is dead or gone.
Yep.
So it was very, very dramatic ending, and that really sold me on that whole season. This one did not have that, and I also feel as though it did not have a great string of comedic episodes early on like the first season did.
Mm-hmm.
But what it did have was Miko Ino.
Yep.
And I really liked her introduction. I think she's excellent as like the show's second straight man, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just the all the difficulties that she's been through in elementary school, middle school, etc. Now she's re-experiencing kind of as a first-year high school student, and that's really it's really a terrifying position to be in, being at the start of a new phase of your life and thinking to yourself, oh, this is just going the same way that everything else has gone. So for somebody to step in and save her, like Shirogane did in the debate episode, where they're giving their speeches, was pretty inspiring. Honestly, I think that was the moment that most closely, it's the closest analog that we have to I Can't Hear the Fireworks. So I really liked that. I did like all the scenes where everyone was together in a room and they were just talking, bantering, bickering, having some fun. Comedic timing still very good.
Mm-hmm.
Visuals still surprising, slightly off kilter in a good way. Maintains visual interest throughout every episode. But man, this would be a top 3 thing for sure if the Ishigami episode were just like plucked out of existence. You remove episode 11, this is a top 3 anime of the year for me.
Wow, all right. Just to know that like one episode could, like taken away from the top 3 spot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Yesterday wa Utatte, its conclusion bumps it out of like the top 5 for me.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's a sad, we do watch. I mean, we're not talking about just our 10 favorite anime of the year, but like our 10 favorite series of the year.
Yep.
And I mean, I know there were not a lot of movies this year, but when you are just considering series and thinking like episodically, it's true. I mean, TV does divide itself up into, like episode by episode, week by week stuff, and some are better than others, and some are just terrible. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah, I would consider more of like the whole ride. Like if you see like what my assessment are from those shows that we just talk about, it's more like the whole feeling that I got. So it's not like by week basics. So I think that's where me and you differ.
Yeah.
All right, number 4, shall we?
Sure.
My number 4, I'm pretty sure that it's gonna be on your top 3.
Okay.
It's an let's just say it out loud. It's Dorohedoro.
All right. I wasn't sure whether you were going to put this on your list. I think I did not predict it.
It's obvious, like I think we after like the winter season last year, where we still do the covering of 4 shows together, 3 or 4 shows.
Yeah.
We come to the conclusion that Dorohedoro and another show is like the top 2 of the season.
I mean, I came to that conclusion, and I wasn't sure whether you were just being like, yeah, I guess so. I wasn't sure whether you were really a fan, because we didn't talk about it. It was being fan subbed pretty quickly, week to week.
Yep.
But maybe the first episode wasn't in time for us to preview.
Yep. So it has been a crazy drive from start to finish. The backgrounds are amazing. It's like one of the best I have seen in this year, last year. The character is insane, and I think each segment has like unique stories. Like they could throw everything they can think of, but how? But for whatever reason, it just all gel together. And for me, like the best thing about the Red Hero, in my view, is that everything looks so effortless. Like all the characters, we will all see that all the characters are having good times. I think the staff having a good time making that, and we can feel like the love for their characters, the love for food, the love for war, for blood,
Yeah.
and it's just a really good time from beginning to end.
Yeah. The show definitely does have kind of its fetishes.
Yeah.
Not sexual fetishes, but I mean that in terms of like various elements or things that it likes to go back to over and over, and you can tell that they are kind of going back to that well with like glee, like it's time for another decapitation scene,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
time for another meal between Noi and what was the guy with the heart mask, I can't remember his name.
All right, right. Shin.
I don't Shin, yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Time for another meal between Shin and Noi. I wonder what kind of dinner conversation they're gonna have this time.
Yep.
It's or time for another appearance from a demon.
And
Let's see who's gonna show up this time, and what little hints they'll give as to the composition of this other world. It was definitely a series that wanted to have fun.
Yep.
Even when it was like really gross or bloody or scary. It was always having fun.
yeah, and it disgusting at time, but it's always, having fun.
Yeah, it's very weird show. Like there's a massive cockroach that wears like sneakers
Yep.
and always says "shocking," and he's just treated as kind of after a while he's just treated as like a regular member of the cast.
Yep.
I mean, not like he's the main character or anything, but this show is so eccentric,
Yep.
and yet all the characters are so like ingrained in their worlds, and I say worlds with an S because there's like parallel dimensions and stuff.
Mhm.
All the characters are, they've got a mission, or they've got things that they really love to eat, or things they really love to do, or a task that they really want to accomplish, and so they definitely feel like part of whole, or they feel like part of the Mage's universe.
Mhm.
I would say that, I mean, even though the characters are CG, and so they stand out a little bit from the backgrounds,
Yep.
from the world of the show, they feel very at home
Mhm.
in its universe,
Yep.
which is kind of ironic, but they pulled it off.
Yep. Yep. All right.
Good stuff.
Yep. I'm done with my my assessment on Dorohedoro. So you can
Right.
give your number four.
I will proceed. All right. My number 4 show is Haikyuu to the Top,
Really?
season 4 of Haikyuu.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Go on.
I enjoyed this season greatly.
Yep.
A lot of people have been complaining about it because the animation, the character designs, everything about it is like a step down
Yep.
in their view from the previous season. But I've got to say, like, I did see the differences, but they really did not bother me very much, honestly. Like some shows, like One Punch Man, they like disintegrate when a new staff takes over. Like the magic is gone.
Yep.
Haikyuu just keeps right on trucking, and the simpler designs, the looser animation, I was all right with all of it. I mean, yeah, I noticed every time that a character went up for a block at the net, and it was just like a still image of their character being clicked and dragged, and
Yep.
moved up the screen
Mhm.
as they jump.
Mhm.
Yeah, I noticed that stuff, but what's way more important to me is like the context of the block that they're going up for. Like, is it a
Yep.
critical moment in the game? is it a matchup between a spiker on the other side of the net and a blocker who like maybe hasn't been having success against them, and like this is a moment for them to kind of shut the other person down. All the psychology of the characters, especially like Tanaka, the guy with the shaved head on Karasuno, like him overcoming his mental block was really awesome. Loved the introduction of all the different members of the Inarizaki team. They're all great. I'd like this show, watching this show, not doing it week to week, but I mean I watched the entire thing over the last like week or week and a half. And watching a few episodes before bed every night was like a highlight for me.
Right.
Haikyuu still one of my favorite sports anime in recent years.
Yeah. All right, I can see that. For me though, like I told you before the postcard, I watched the whole thing in 2 or 3 days. And it's just amazing to see like how even like the second core up to the top, it's just like a single match. So it's just like few hours. But for us,
I mean that's what season 3 was.
Yeah. But
Season
for
3
us,
of
it's like
Haikyuu
3
was a single
months.
match.
Yeah, but for us, it's like 3 months of waiting. So I think.
But you didn't wait,
by
and
that,
neither did I.
I know. So by that, I just mean that Haikyuu is meant for binge watch. You watch the whole thing
I
all
agree.
at once, not by
I
week
agree.
to week basis. Consider this to be my least favorite out of the 4 seasons. One of the reason is the lift in quality in production that like you mentioned. So for me, it's really noticeable, and some of the time it would go for a whole episode. Some of the time it's like one of these moments, but you can still see that. The one that I think I'm most disappointed with is like the very end, the key moments at the end of second core. I think like there's a lift in quality that really bring bring so much attention to itself. That for me it just bring down my my attention for a little bit.
I don't even remember what you're talking about. I was just into it.
Yeah, the match point basically.
The match point.
Uh,
How is a match point scored? I can't remember. Who scores it?
so that's the clock between
Yes. Hinata and Kageyama.
Yep. That
They
one.
block the ball, and then the other team, runs in
And
slow motion to try to recover it, and they can't do it. Something like that.
Yep. And the character design on that scene was really loose at the point. And there's a lot of
I actually. Go ahead.
yeah. Oh yeah. I just want to mention there are a lot of repetitive reuse scenes, especially like
Yes.
the ceiling of the stadium where they play. It will have to like be there for like every single episode for like 2 or 3 times.
The ceiling of the. What? I mean, that's the environment where the game is being played. What's wrong with showing the
They
setting
showing-
multiple times?
They're showing a bit too much.
Dude, I don't even know
Way
what you're
too
talking
much.
about on that one in particular. Like, that is a weird complaint.
If you pay attention, like they have that ceiling scene for like 3 or 4 times an episodes.
Okay. I
Yeah,
mean,
you were about to say something, right?
yeah. The looseness. People have been complaining about, things being off model and loose. Dude, I grew to like that as during this season. Because they're using character designs that are a little bit looser, like the hair is not as detailed. There's the shading is perhaps like not as, not lending a sense of three-dimensionality to the characters. So given the fact that things looked simpler, I enjoyed that things got looser to match. Like, for example, when when Karasuno would do one of their trademark attacks where all the main characters would like be running towards the net, Kageyama would be about to set the ball, and you don't know who's going to spike it because literally everyone is running towards the net, and things would look loose.
Yep.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly, I think that kind of fits because those are moments where all the characters are just like, you know, strategy is kind of out the window in those moments, and it's just about, you know, jumping as high as you can, hoping the ball comes to you, and slamming it over the net. And so the characters are exhibiting a little bit less discipline in those moments. So I think the animation becoming less disciplined is actually appropriate. Now, obviously, season 3 of Haikyuu versus Shiro Torizawa, that was a godlike season of animation that that mortals do not deserve.
Yeah.
That was beautiful production. So I think that maybe people who came to Haikyuu a little bit later and had seen that season somewhat recently would be like, man, what is this season 4 crap? This doesn't look like the Shiro Torizawa season. But I'd been waiting to watch Haikyuu to the top for 4 years. I hadn't seen Haikyuu in 4 years. So
Yep.
when the new season dropped, I was like, all right, well, I've heard about the staff changes. I realized that the character designs are different. Let's get into this. Let's see, let's see what we got here. And, you know, I liked it. My love for the characters carried me through.
Yep. Well,
I also
love
don't think it
how
was that bad looking, but obviously not as good as before.
Yeah, I still like the way how they still find way to improve, to level up our characters. Like Hinata know how to defend. That's a big thing, you know.
Yeah, that was a big moment when he received the block that was going to end the game.
Yeah.
I think that was the context of that scene. Like if Arizaki scored in that scene, like the game was over, but Hinata blocks it. Yeah, he finally learned how to defend.
I actually, it's not the game over, but the set over. And actually, like from what I remember, they lost on that point, with the ball just touching the net. Remember that? Luckily, so yes, they still lose, but like the significance of that receive is important.
Yeah. It was an important scene, and it's true that I don't remember the context of every scene. Like I was just taking this in, getting all wrapped up and absorbed in it, and I definitely don't have perfect recall where the show is concerned. Like, I was just having a good time.
Yeah, but Haikyuu,
which is part of why I'm. What's up?
Yeah, go on. Yeah, I
which
just
is part
to
of
say that. yeah, you go on.
Which is part of why, the change in art style and in animation did not bother me as much. Like, Hinata's leveling up. Kageyama is getting a match against the guy who called him Goody Two Shoes at the all youth camp. Huge moment for him because he's one of the nation's top setters and he's playing against another one. And then that guy, we learned about his bond with his brother and his relationship to some of the quieter and more mature members of the squad. And we're seeing how they match up against all the different members of Karasuno. Like you talked earlier, I can't remember what show it was, but you mentioned that the character relationships, maybe it was Kaguya-sama or something else. Like the amount of different character relationships and how different they all are is really interesting. Haikyuu did the same thing this season.
All right. I actually don't. I still don't get what he meant by saying "goody two shoes."
Oh, so goody. Do you know what "goody two shoes" means?
Yeah, but I don't really see how it applies to this context.
Yeah. So it might not have been the best translation, but what he was trying to say was that Kageyama is like the fact that he aims for 100% perfection when he sets, as a setter. He's setting everyone else up, and he wants to be perfect so that they can get the spike. So he's saying Kageyama's a goody two-shoes because he works too hard to make sure everyone else succeeds. Atsumu, the guy who says that, is a little bit more selfish. So from his perspective, Kageyama is a little bit too selfless. And we know that's not
Right.
really
Got it.
true of Kageyama's character. Kageyama wants to be the best for himself. He wants his
Yep.
team to win, but he is also very prideful.
Yep.
But Atsumu did not get to know him. He didn't get that chance to understand that about Kageyama's character. So there was a misunderstanding between them, which is part of why the match between the two schools was so gripping. Was that these are two boys who like fundamentally disagree, like their personalities are kind of opposed, and even where they're similar, they don't understand that about each other.
Yep.
So, I honestly I think there was some tremendous like parallel between those two was maybe my favorite part of the entire season.
Yep. That's a good thing that you bring up about the translation. Because
Yeah, well, I mean, I always take that into account, whether a translation is good or not, when I'm watching.
Yep.
Because sometimes they're bad.
Sometimes bad. Sometimes like the scene that you mentioned. You post in the in our chat room. It just lost the context very much.
Yeah.
God.
Yarisugi Dostoevsky was translated to Mr. Freeze says to chill. Like, oh my god.
But well, yeah, this is one of the show that like you can watch it from day to end. You just don't want to stop. I'd be able to watch it. Just being the whole thing for like 2 or 3 days. So
Yeah. Yep, I'm surprised to hear you say that and then have you not put it in your top 3, because I know I know now what your top 3 is,
All right.
and you probably know what mine is as well.
Yep. I thought you would like put that on your top 10. I also think that I also about to put that on your honorable mention. But after I think that the slip of the quality of the production, I just think that you might not like it like like other season.
Oh
Like
yeah.
like it.
I mean, I've seen all the complaints, and I just I don't get it. Like,
Yep.
yeah, I see that it looks different, but show's still good in my opinion.
All right. Let's go to my 3. So the third one, as you might have guessed, like all the titles, but not in the others. So the third one is Oregairu 3.
Whoa! You just blew my mind, dude. I knew that was gonna be in your top 3, but I didn't know it was gonna be that low.
Oh well. For the record, like the first and second are always like on my mind since the beginning of the year. Like those two are staying atop of everything else. From 3 to 11 though is a different story, as I told you as well. And to think of like everything, to consider everything, I think Oregairu is the top of those out of 8. And for me it just brings the satisfying conclusion to what it set out in second season. It never topped the second season, by the way. It bring the satisfying characters act, the development for Hachimen, Yukinon, and Yui, and there's still a lot of like one-liners and those exchanges that are pretty good. But at the same time, this is going into the direction that you all expected, and although it's satisfying, emotional, it's still like the thing that you can tell by watching, by following it all the way through. So for me, it's a good season. It's just not in the like in the quality of the grade for me.
I see. Well, I can't really say anything about it.
Yeah.
I've tried Oregairu and I have not gotten into it, so I can't say anything about season 3.
Yeah.
But
At least we got the same. My 2 are gonna be on your top 3.
Yes. It's good that the conclusion was satisfying. It's too bad that it wasn't the best of the 3.
Yep.
We didn't have a Haikyuu situation where season 3 just goes to another plane of existence.
Yep.
It would be nice if every show that got. I mean, we had that with Aggretsuko as well. It's too bad that
Oh,
Oregairu couldn't
yeah,
complete the triangle.
yeah. I just want to mention that for Haikyuu, did you watch the OVA before
I
that?
did, yes.
I haven't. I don't know how
Yeah.
relevant it is to the main story.
It's about Nekoma, and
Oh, right.
there was like a 2 episode arc about Nekoma, the team with the red
Yeah.
uniforms, in the middle of Haikyuu to the top. So if you like
Oh,
Nekoma, I would recommend watching the OVA because it's about them.
hold on. So because I remember like there are 2 episodes uh in the second core that focus on Nekoma as well. Is that the same
Yep.
ones?
It's the same team, but the OVA, no, those are not the OVA episodes.
All right.
The OVA is different.
Yep.
It just focuses on Nekoma. So if you
Cool.
like those characters, if you like that
I
team,
like the team.
you should go back and watch the OVA because it's about them.
Cool. All right, I will. All right, off to you now.
All right, my number 3 is Great Pretender.
Right.
This is another show where people have been very disappointed by it. You know, like Haikyuu, obviously people have been complaining about the visuals and all that. And Great Pretender, people have been complaining about the story. Oh, you know, what happened in the second half of Great Pretender? It just fell to pieces and people, you know, fake deaths, etc., etc. Bitch, this this series was crazy from the beginning.
Yep.
This series was illogical from the start.
Yep.
So you know, all the people who were like, I don't like that. You know, what didn't they like about it? I wonder. I mean, yeah, there are issues like what's the main guy's name? Minato,
Yep.
Edamura. I usually call him Makoto.
Makoto.
Edamura joining the you know, like the human trafficking ring and posing so effectively as one of their like top lieutenants and stuff. That definitely strains credibility. You know, it's hard to believe that he would be able to do that since he's such a bumbling idiot. So that is a problem. Yeah, I'll agree with that. And all of the fake deaths, there were like half a dozen of them. Those were pretty silly. But it doesn't really matter because the show has like a bangin' OP and ED combo. It has insane background art that like makes the real world look more appealing than anything else this year, which is crazy because there was a lot of good background art on display this year. It has its soundtrack, you know, it's jazzy, it's groovy. There are some really cool insert songs in there. The dialogue between the characters is so sharp and you know, paints such vivid pictures of their personalities, even if their backstories are sometimes like, you know, a little bit too much. And the plots are just engineered for like maximum chaos and like reversal potential. You know, like they set up a villain as being like a puppy kicking, you know, mustache twirling embodiment of evil, so that the main characters can just like swoop in, do their Robin Hood thing, and be on their way. Does it make any sense? Most of the time, no, it really doesn't. But it doesn't matter. The show's so stylish. The character designs are so good. The art is so pretty. I love it. Well, love is not the right word. I don't think I can say that I love this show.
You enjoy it.
Yeah, I enjoy it. Perfect. Yes,
Yep.
thank you. I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. It's very enjoyable, more than it
Yep.
is well written or logical, or I don't know, like meaningful or purposeful. It is enjoyable. It is perhaps the most enjoyable anime of the year.
Yep.
So there's my spiel.
All right. Would you care to guess what my number one is? Because now when I say number two, you will know my number one is.
I mean, I know what number 2 and number 1 are. I mean, I'm gonna guess Eizouken is number 1, but you might surprise me.
All right. So go on to my number two now. Is also Great Pretender.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're just gonna continue in the in our discussion to Great Pretender then.
Sure.
We have talked about it at length. on a previous podcast about the two core, the two season, yeah, the two core, the first and second core,
You
and
can't even really treat it that way because it's a
yeah,
Netflix thing.
yeah, that's
Like
right.
didn't air on TV.
It's
But I know what you mean.
it's a thrill ride from an entertaining all the way through. I think I agree with all you said before. The characters are fun to follow. They have like a snappy dialogue. Like all these exchanges are really fun. Um, I think the essence of the Great Pretender is that they set up the plot to be unpredictable, exciting, and has a bit of depth in it. And for me though, like the first two, they practice with flying color. With the depth thing is they have a bit struggling with. So that's why like some of the plot is especially the backstory for a part when we think hard about that. We already discussed about that as well. But other than that though, it's some of the logic as well. Also, like when you think about that, it might be a bit, stumbling. And I also agree that the last arc is too long and not enough in a lot
Too
of things.
too long and
So
also not enough.
yep, that's
So it's
right.
too much, but also not enough.
That's right. They focus too much on some of the unnecessary backstories, and they not focus enough on like the boss, the main boss of the Chinese and Japanese
Yeah,
gang. I, I
she was.
I want to see more
Yeah,
of this.
yeah. The
Um.
relationship between her and Edamura felt very, very thin.
Yeah. True.
Even though he was supposed to be like a stand-in for her son,
Yep.
who was like missing from her life
Yep.
for whatever reason that wasn't really clear.
Yep. Well, that's right. And they try to intervening too many plot lines and backstory together, so that they try too hard on the second half. But uh, we have like the first three ride, which is really really entertaining. Even like the second half is still entertaining in its own way. And
Yeah.
as for entertaining values, as for like the plot that go to um that go that like we watching the show, guess how it all fall down. It just you know so fun, so fun to watch.
Yeah. It was very, very fun, very enjoyable.
Yep.
You've made a couple references here to there being too much backstory
Yep.
in the final arc. Are you referring to
Yep.
Lawrence's backstory?
Lawrence and the Japanese
Oz.
guy father as well. Yep.
Yeah. Oz. I actually
Yep. Yep.
really, really like Lawrence's backstory. I loved seeing She Won when she was younger,
Mm,
and meeting Cynthia. I really liked meeting Cynthia.
mm,
I think it gave Lawrence's character some much needed humanity because before
yep.
that he was, mostly just like a smug playboy asshole who was okay with like risking the lives of all the people working for him. He put Makoto and Abby's lives in danger, like especially at the end of the second arc when he just kind of leaves them for dead.
Yep.
He's out on the boat in the middle of the harbor, and Sam's shooting the machine gun out the window, and they're like parachuting out. And I mean, that's kind of a perfect microcosm of Great Pretender as a whole. Like, it doesn't make a ton of sense that he would invest so much in these people, Makoto and Abby, and then abandon them.
Yep.
Um, so you would figure that since he's the mastermind here, he would just set it up so that Sam is like helpless and powerless after the race. He just gives him the money, and then like he's withheld or like confined for some time. Like he's not able to go and do whatever he wants. You would figure that Laurent would set it up that way. He doesn't, and that doesn't make a lot of sense. So Makoto and Abby jumping out of the window and like parachuting out to Laurent's boat. You're watching it. You're thinking this really doesn't compute, but at the same time, you don't care because he's just jumped out of a window and he's like paragliding down to a boat on a lake that's like reflecting the sun, and it looks beautiful, and the music is just like the horns are blaring and you're caught up in it and you're like, this is the good shit. This is what I want to see.
Yeah, true.
So it doesn't. You're like, one half of your brain's like, this I don't really buy this, and the other half is like, I would buy this for $100,000.
Yep. Especially when you think about it, though, the backgrounds. I like for me, the background are great to look at, but it doesn't really add much to the context of the show. How do you think about that?
Oh, I mean, I disagree. I feel like maybe the way you feel about Great Pretenders backgrounds is the way I feel about Akudama Drive's backgrounds.
Right. Yep.
They're not really essential. That's how you feel,
Yep.
perhaps, about Great Pretender.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I mean, the backgrounds are the best thing about this show.
Yep.
They look unbelievable. Like,
Look.
especially buildings in this show, like that are made out of brick
Yep.
or like marble. The way that they capture that texture just via color and arrangement is out of this world. Like, it's crazy what they were able to achieve in some of these shots. Like, I'm looking at some screenshots right now. Landscapes. Occasionally things get a little bit ugly. Like, there are some sunsets where everything is like yellow and purple, and you're like, my eyes. But for the most part, I think it looks lovely.
Yeah, for me, the one part that I love the most about its background is the water. When you see like they put the water in the lake, the ripple effect of the water is look fantastic. It look also out of this world.
When I rewatch this show someday, because it does seem like, especially like, it being on Netflix and being kind of friendly to Westerners, given its subject matter, I might rewatch this with somebody someday.
Yeah.
When I do that, I'm gonna have to keep an eye out for the water.
I will send
Because
you
I rewatched this show. Like, I watched it twice. I watched every episode twice.
Wow.
I watched it as it was coming out, and then I watched it each one again before I blogged it.
Yep.
And I never really noticed the water, so I'm gonna have to go back on that.
Yep. I will send you some screenshot of that.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So
good stuff.
Yeah,
good
good stuff.
So if you've got it at number 2, I've got it at number 3. That should be enough to push it onto the top 10 list at the very least.
Yep.
At the end of the year.
Yep.
Which is
Well,
good.
we still have Chihara-Furu for the ballot.
Yes, Chihai-Furu is definitely on mine. We both have. There's a lot of overlap between our lists.
Yep.
I think.
If I put Chihara-Furu, that would be on my number 5. Number 6. That would be after Golden Kamuy and before Aggretsuko.
I think Chihai-Furu is also my number 6 on my ballot.
Hmm.
It's after Kaguya-sama,
Right.
but before Akudama Drive.
Yep. All right. So, can you tell us what your number 2 gonna be?
Oh, I thought I just did one. I guess you're my number 3 and wait, what?
So my number 2 is Great Pretender. So we
So
continue
it's my
to
number
talk
2
about
that
Great
I need to
Pretender.
say.
Yep.
Okay. Are we ready?
Yep.
Okay, my final 2. What's it gonna be?
I would make a guess that it's Dorohedoro for number 2.
Okay. My number 2 is Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken.
Wow. Look at that.
Yeah, Dorohedoro is my number 1 anime of the year.
Wow.
So for Eizouken, we can just go straight from my number 2 into your number 1, so we can just talk about it.
Yep.
Yeah, this Eizouken. I really wish this show were better.
All right.
Honestly, so I rewatched it, all of it, over the
Yeah.
last 3 days, and
Mm-hmm.
previously I had thought, oh well, Eizouken was a great show that was just hampered by a weak finale.
Yep.
Because I remember complaining a lot about the finale.
I don't remember
when I
much
rewatched
about
it.
Finally, though. All right.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, the finale is the one, where they have the problem with the music, like the music doesn't sync up
Oh, right.
to the final animation. So what they do is they keep the music and they restructure the entire story, so there's no more dance party at the end, and
Yep.
the 2 main characters like surrender instead of achieving like peace between the humans and the Kappa. And
Yep.
what sucks about the finale is that it's the culmination of everything that these girls have worked for. I mean, I know this show is kind of told in 3 different arcs based on the 3 different, animated projects or works
Yep.
that they put out. So you can kind of treat the last 4 episodes as self-contained, but I mean, they're clearly like building a momentum throughout the entire 12-episode production. Because the third one is way bigger than everything else, and they have sponsors involved, and they're like literally going up against the staff of the school in order to get enough freedom to profit from this work and make money off of it. And when they encounter, well, I don't know if I should be talking so much about the finale. Like, it's the whole show that matters.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wasn't satisfied by the airing of the final thing. Like, I just thought it was a mess. And I think that's what keeps me from putting Eizouken at number 1 is that like there are some shows like yesterday Utatte, for example, where I hate the finale, but then my main impression of the show is actually what I saw at the beginning. Or what's another example? I mean, I guess that would be the best one. But for Eizouken, one. Well, no, I wasn't that disappointed with Great Pretender's final arc.
Right.
I mean, there were a lot of problems with it, and I definitely criticized the show a hell of a lot when I wrote about it.
Yep.
But I had a good time watching those last 9 episodes. I did not have a good time watching the last episode of Eizouken. In fact, it is when I think about this show, the finale is what I think about. And I consider putting Eizouken lower on this list, like a lot lower, actually. But it does have some really, I mean, the characters, I'm going to finally start talking about what I like.
Yep.
The characters are so well designed. They're so diverse. They're voiced so differently.
Yep.
They feel so distinct just as a whole. And that's great.
Agreed.
for a high school club show.
Yep.
And, obviously it being an anime about animation is wonderful. There are some very impassioned speeches, particularly from Mizusaki's character, the idol girl, where she talks about animators being actors who don't just play human beings. They play every role that there is. And her insistence that, like, she wants to do the best she can on every single frame and every single cut, because she's like, when she's animating, she's thinking about the knowledgeable people in the audience who are paying close attention to all of that stuff. She wants her work to shine. Like the way that she felt about her animation and the way that Asakusa felt about her love for machines and for set design, and the way that Kanamori felt about like running a successful business based on the lessons that she learned in that little backstory in episode 9 about her grandparents' convenience store being shut down. One of the show's better episodes, I think. Like all the girls really set out to accomplish something, and they had like a guiding ethos behind their creative process, which came through consistently. And it caused them to butt heads, and it also caused them to achieve greatness. Which I think that's great.
Yep.
You
All
should
right.
say some stuff.
Yeah.
I hate the finale so much, dude.
Yeah. Well, it's actually funny that you talk about your second favorite shows of the year, and it's still a lot of disappointment in the shows, especially.
Yeah, I'm more disappointed in
in the-
Eizouken than I am in a lot of shows that rank underneath it on this list.
Yeah. That's a shame. For me though, it's about the process of making anime, and you can see that the love of the anime, of the medium itself, and the love of creating something. So the whole thing, and like you said, they have like the 2 adorable men with different personality, which bounce off each other very well. It's just great to follow them, like doing the project, starting from like a sheet of paper, a sheet of blank paper into like something that like worth following for. And the backgrounds, I just love the background. It's so inventive. It just
Yeah.
the town itself is the place that I myself want to live in. It cramped. It have like some sort of uh they have like the underground shopping, for example, which like really for me it's unique. Like every single corners have like a purpose of a purpose of itself. I love it. It for me it also like the ending is why I'm not really disappointed in that. It also like it's nothing. I don't remember much about it. Just to say that it doesn't really
You're better off.
it doesn't really mean much of an impact. But other than that, I
That's a
remember
problem in
like
itself.
yeah, it is. It's a quite. It's a bit. But I also remember like the ending of I think of Act Two in the festival is one of my joyous moment I watched in anime this
Yeah.
year. So
Yeah. Definitely one of my favorite episodes of the year.
yeah, so although it's like it even out, it when I think about Eizouken, I think of the joy of making anime, a joy of following these adorable girls making something by themselves for themselves. It just that feeling that like keep me thinking of Eizouken very highly.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a good show. Um and it was probably because I thought it was so good that I was so disappointed by it.
Yep.
Also, maybe because the drop off was so swift. Like with yesterday, Utatte, I saw the writing on the wall a little bit before it happened. With Eizouken, I was like, because at the end of episode 11, the cliffhanger is, oh my god, the music doesn't match the animation at all.
Yep.
How could y'all have been? What have you been doing? Did you fall asleep? Like, how was this problem not caught sooner? I mean, that's the first of many problems that I have with it. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned a really great episode in the finale.
Yep.
Of the second arc, rather, the school festival episode, really good stuff. The scene where Mizusaki's parents are in the crowd and they're watching the animation.
Yeah.
And they say, because they're both actors, they say to each other, like even if you leave your child alone, they're gonna grow up anyway.
Yep.
Really, it really, when they say that, it really hits you because it's an acknowledgement of everything the show has been hinting at. Like the show does not go full anime and be like, oh, my parents weren't around and I was so lonely and a lot of anime have teenagers who are living on their own. They don't have any parents,
Yep.
or their parents are distant or cold, and they're like
Yep.
socially maladjusted because of it, and then they learn usually from because of the love of like a 14-year-old girl or something like that there's good in the world. Mizusaki's character is like optimistic
Mm-hmm.
and pleasant.
Yep.
And the pain that she deals with, she pushes down, and it comes out in just small moments of frustration usually when Kanamori is telling her, we don't have time, you're taking too long, the anime is not proceeding according to schedule. And she says to Kanamori, as though Kanamori were her mom, I'm doing it and that's final.
Yep.
Like, it's just so clear in those moments that she's rebelling against her mother, indirectly. And that's just so smart. Like, Eizouken has a lot of moments like that are very smart. I'm thinking in particular of episode 11, like when at the beginning, Asakusa's kind of wandering around, she's looking for inspiration, and she sees the leaves of a particular plant that you can pick and then sell at a restaurant because they serve like fried or grilled fish on those leaves. But you don't know this yet. All you hear from her is, "Oh, look, it's the money leaves." And then later in the episode, there's a flashback to her meeting with Kanamori,
Yep.
where they meet for the first time in gym class, and then later they go and pick those leaves together. That's like her first experience with Kanamori as a friend.
Yep.
Then you realize what she meant, and you realize how much that meant to her. Like, she's held on to that memory, and that's how she thinks of that plant now.
Mm-hmm.
It's little stuff like that does make it a pretty damn good show.
I agree. So don't just hang up on on that ending too much. There's a lot.
I just watched it, dude. I watched it like 1 hour
Eizouken.
before this podcast.
All right. Yeah. Well.
And I honestly, I didn't stop thinking about how disappointing it was, even like from the end of March when we watched it all the way up until
Yesterday.
Today.
An hour.
Yeah, like every once in a while it would pop into my mind, like, man, this show really could have been something.
Yeah, well, it is something. It still is something.
I mean, it's something, but it's not really something.
Yeah. All right. Introduce your number one anime of
Dorohedoro.
2020, please. Oh wow. Tell me why.
Easily Dorohedoro. Best cast of characters in anime this year.
I agree.
Some of the best background art.
Yep.
Surprisingly competent CG.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I would really, really have preferred it not to be CG, like, because this show's like gritty and grimy, and you don't want that cleanliness that computer animation has, that kind of unnaturality.
Yep.
But it was good enough that all the other elements, all of which stood out, could carry it. Dude, the characters in this show are just so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
How does a show feature a cast of like murderers and psychopaths with all these little quirks that how's that possible?
Yeah, well,
that is still a mystery. That is Dorohedoro.
It's still baffling me on that as well. Because at the end of the day, I when I see them, they are full of them murderers, like killing
Intent
people, and I enjoy every moment watching them.
Yeah, it is really it's really a feat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it was a feat in the manga as well, but this was not a one-to-one adaptation. Like the director took some liberties, rearranged some things, omitted some things, added some things.
Yep.
And I think all those decisions worked out pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Kaiman having lost his memory,
Yep.
Nikaido being from Whole originally.
Yep.
There's something really attractive about that pairing. I mean, they weren't necessarily the main, like always, the show's main focus. It did split its time very evenly between all the major players. Another one of its good qualities.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as Kaiman and Nikaido go, the fact that he's lost his memory
Mm-hmm.
and is hunting down the very class of people that she once belonged to, when that emerges as like kind of the central pillar of their relationship later on, it's really effective.
Mm-hmm.
Because he wants to kill people like her.
Yep.
But the simplicity of their friendship, even as simple as it is, like it being based on food and mutual aid, even just that is enough
Yep.
to overpower his
And
like this desperate struggle that he's going through, killing all the group of people that she once belonged to in order like to regain his memory.
Yep.
That's essential to his character. That's his whole arc and his story. And there's a commentary here, I think, that a friend is more important than like your memories of yourself, of other people. What matters is your friends, like, being with them, being present with them, not what happened in the past.
Yeah, I think what saved it for me is how I think the Kaiman, he picks up on that Nikaido is from
A sorcerer.
yeah, but he decided to look away. He decided not to
Yeah.
dwell on it.
Yeah.
Like that,
He does go through a phase of like not really acknowledging it,
Yep.
and then when he finally decides to face it, he's like,
Yes.
"So what?"
Yes, my friend.
You know? Yeah.
Just one thing that like really bugging me on Dorohedoro is that it's not ending yet, so we don't know when
Right.
we're gonna see this story ends. Hopefully,
Right.
hopefully soon, though. And I don't want
Yes.
I don't want to read the manga just to spoil the fun, the experience that we have seen in the anime medium so far.
Right. Yeah. I mean, depending on how long the wait is, I might read the manga eventually, especially because it looks very different. The manga's style is very, very messy, and
Yep.
it is very detailed in the same way that the background design for Dorohedoro is. And dude, the backgrounds in this show, like
Yep.
my
Right.
top three, it's not a coincidence that my three favorite series of the year have the three best like
Backgrounds, designs.
yeah, like the art direction
Yep.
is my favorite in those three. That's not a coincidence in the least. That's one of the reasons I decided to keep Eizouken in my top three,
Yep.
just so that I could have that like sync up between the art design and the top three there. It's beautiful, like how gross and disgusting, and like you can just imagine like the scent of I don't know, like gasoline and like flesh and
Yep.
rotting food and stuff in whole. Just looking at it makes you
Yep.
feel like you could be there. You understand the experience. And then by contrast, the sorcerer's realm is like, it's so weird. It's like so anachronistic.
Yep.
All of the like Roman Catholic looking cathedrals and weird, almost modern dwellings, like houses and things, all kind of slapped together. And the whole lore behind like the masks and how people acquire them, and how you like Noi training to become a devil
Yep.
or a demon, like her progress there, and that she eventually had to give it up, like the circumstances of that failure on her part, and how she's rebounded from it, and how that speaks to her relationship with Shin in a way that is somewhat similar to the Kaiman and Nikaido dynamic. Yeah. Just really, like any one of these characters could carry a series on their own, and somehow they all ended up in this one. That's maybe the best thing I can say about Dorohedoro.
Yep. Well, that the sentiment that I said earlier on as well about this year is a great year for show with characters that are larger than life and are like a protagonist of their own story. So on my list I have Akudama Drive, I have Golden Kamuy, and I have Dorohedoro, which would fall into that category.
Right. Yes, and on mine, I guess it's just two of the three that you mentioned. I don't know what else. What else did I put on my list, man? Let me scroll back up and take a look here. Haikyuu to the top has some larger than life characters in it for sure.
That's true as well.
That's
Gal and
about
Dino.
it. Gal and Dino, yeah. I mean, Dino is literally larger than life. He should not be alive.
All right, that's a lot of material that we gone through, and it's a good list that we come up through. I'm happy with my list. I'm happy with your list as well. There's a few surprises in a good way.
Yeah, I'm looking at your predictions for me right now. You actually thought I would put Deca-Dence in the top 10.
Yeah, well, I remember that you not really that enthusiasm, but you don't hate it, I've
I don't hate it. There's a lot of anime I don't hate.
well, I'm pretty sure that you would put that above DNA, for example.
Oh yeah, I would. And I thought BNA was going to be on your list because you know,
Yeah, I don't hate it
you,
either,
you
but
like anthropomorphic animals. I just threw it on
but
there because I figured, well, he likes Beastars, and he even made us preview that show about the wrestler that sniffs dogs' butts. You remember that
what?
show? Do you remember
What?
that show? The isekai where the wrestler gets transported to another world
Yep,
where he like loves animals and stuff, and he
yep.
sniffs their butts.
I didn't like it. Did I say that I like that
No, you
show?
didn't, but you thought it was worth previewing.
Oh my god.
I was like, he just loves animals and stuff, so
Um,
let's throw BNA on here.
I think I do. I will put BNA on my top 15 though. So you still
Yeah.
had your merits.
Deca-Dence would not even be on my top 15.
Oh wow. All right. Hmm.
Yeah. It would be, 16, something like that. But
Cool.
Decadence
So
for
yeah,
me, like ID Invaded, if you remember ID Invaded and
I
Decadence
do.
kind of exist on the same plane
All right.
for me.
I almost put ID invaded on the most disappointing. I think.
Mm. Yeah, it wouldn't be out of place there. I have 3 shows that I thought were more disappointing.
All right. Yep. We just finished like the cream on the crop of the anime of 2020. So if you haven't watched any of these, feel free to try out. You will. I hope you will enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, you better,
You better.
pleb.
And next week, we will start with the new season. So it's everyone favorite. The first impression pause.
Yeah. We've already got the 10 shows that we're going to do for winter 2021 lined up.
You had the list here.
I do, actually. I can pull it up right now. They are Beastars Season 2, Vlad Love, Horimiya, Skate the Infinity, 2.43, Volleyball High School Club, whatever. I don't know what the title is. Yuru Camp Season 2, Non Biori Nonstop, Kemono Jihen, Cells at Work, Code Black, and The Spider Isekai.
Yep. All right. Oh,
We're not
looking
doing
forward
Wonder
to
Egg
that.
Priority because it's not going to come out in time.
Yep. That's right. I'm excited for all of them. So let's see how they're gonna span out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for half, so hopefully that half is good.
All right, for listener, thank you for like spending 2 hours listen to us just geeking about our favorite things, and happy New Year to you guys. Hopefully, 2021 will be better than last year.
It's got to be, right?
Well,
I'm pretty confident about that.
yeah, if you are at the bottom, or like the next thing will be improve no matter what.
Yes. I feel the same way about anime sometimes. Hopefully it'll
right.
be a good year for anime too.
Yeah, hope for that. All right, thank you for listening, and we see you next week.
See you then.